Hey guys, good afternoon. Welcome back to the stream. And today we are continuing on with graphs. Now, we have made a couple of slight changes as we move to a whole new system. We've got some buttons now for the frequency, okay? And although I haven't made any, well, I have actually made a few programming changes because now our vertical box is have I deleted it? Yeah, I think no. Yeah, so this is the vertical box here that we can now delete. Okay, because I've now put the selectors into a uniform grid. Okay, so I have done the code for that. Now we need to place this back in. And as you can see, I've done the row count stuff for the uniform grid. Now, with that in mind, as I said, I have done these buttons with a point of view of coming up with a save system that isn't too strenuous, right? So what I was going to do was this first one is going to keep everything in 5-second chunks, okay? Because we're saving it in 5-second chunks. So we're going to keep 2 minutes of data in the 5-minute chunks. Then we're going to move everything that passes those 2 minutes old will then get moved into 1-minute chunks. Okay? Then everything from the minutes, once they become the length of this graph, old, like say this is an hour, right? Then they'll all get moved into hour chunks. Okay, so I'll gradually be changing the array, and basically it's going to be pulling old stuff out and pulling new stuff in. Or sorry, it's going to be consolidating the old information, or the 5-second chunks, once it becomes 2 minutes old, right? And then it's going to happen again when a chunk becomes like 30 minutes old. If we do the 1 minute one for 30 minutes in 1 minute blocks, and then we're going to move it to hour chunks, and then we're going to move it to day chunks. Okay, so that's my plan for the moment. Right, and we're going to move these, and we're going to write the grid data ourselves, right? We're not going to use a data source, right, because we don't have control over that, of when we start, when we end. So, in theory, we're going to start on that today. Now, I've also changed the sizes of these slightly. So this is now slightly bigger, this is now slightly smaller, right? But because we've got control over this graph and the scale left and right, etc., X and Y, we should be able to make it look pretty damn good. Okay, so that is what we're doing. So, and I think what we did last night was we were working on the comp game stat counter, and we created an array called data points, right? So every time it creates a set of data, it creates a set of data points, right? And the data point is the one that we're going to continuously update as things get older. So this is the one that we're going to be working on. Okay? So, with that in mind, let's do it. Okay, now we're probably going to have to excuse me, I was just getting a drink there. Right, we're probably going to have to change the data points, the struct, and we're probably going to have to create an enum so that we know if it's in seconds, if it's in minutes, or if it's in hours, or whatever, right? So that's what we'll do. So we'll go to our stats counter, right? And we shall create a excuse me. We shall create an enum, e time, call it e time period. Okay, we'll open it up and we shall go for 4. So we're going to say seconds minutes we'll say hours, and dare I dream big and say days. Okay, now we're going to have to work on some logic here, and it's going to be pretty nasty, I reckon. Right, but our data points, we're going to have to add period, okay, and that is going to be e time period, okay, and we're going to default it to seconds, and that's cool. Right, so we can now go back. Right, I'll let you see some of the, what I'll do is I'll let you see some of the calculations that I was working out, right? So for our 10-second graph, which will actually be a 5-second graph, right? We're obviously going to have 2 minutes of data, okay? That's the plan. So it'll go from 0 to 120 seconds previous. Okay, so that's 12 because we're taking data every 5 seconds, right? And we're going to be doing it for 2 minutes, right? So in theory, we're going to have 24 multiplied by the number of products that we're actually making, right? So this can still become quite big. Okay, because this, let's say this is 100, that's going to be 2,400 array elements, okay, and this is why we're going to have to consolidate them. Okay, so that's for 2 minutes, right? So if I multiply that by 30, that gives us an hour. Okay, and that again is multiplied by the number of product. And then if we multiply that by 24, you get that. Okay, and then once again, that is multiplied by the number of products. So we're going to end up with huge amounts of data if we were to keep everything live. Okay, so that is the reason behind my thinking for consolidating the data as we go, as it becomes older, right? So this is why we need the time period, because after 2 minutes we'll get everything that's over the 2 minutes and amalgamate it into the minutes. Then if we do 30 minutes, then we'll do the same again, right? When we hit the 30 minutes, everything over 30 minutes will get amalgamated into an hour's data. Okay? So that is the thought process here for consolidating the data into manageable chunks. So, without further ado, let's crack on with it. Okay? And the first thing we'll actually do is when we reset the totals and we actually do the data points, we shall check those things. Okay, now this is just checking for the highest value. Okay, so we'll tidy that up a bit. Right, so that's going into the quantity. We'll move this along here a bit. We'll move this up back to kind of where it was. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to find out where we write our data points. Okay, so find references, get data points, and we're adding them here. Okay, so what we'll do is, in the first instance, right, we shall basically only take data that's less than or equal to 120. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll write a function that that's not going to be used, because we're never going to remove data. Well, actually, yeah, we are. Right, we'll work on this later anyway. But, so what we'll say, remove after 2, okay? So we're going to remove any data that's greater than 120, okay? And then that is going to give us the latest data all the time, okay? So we're going to say for each and then we're going to say this and if the period equals seconds, right, and the time is greater than I don't think this isn't actually going to be 120, right? It's going to be the get. Right, let's do it properly then, right? So it's get seconds. It's get game time in seconds, right? And that's minus 120 so if we've been running for 2 minutes 30, right, then let's say we run 2 minutes 30, so that would be 150. So anything that's that goes in there. If it's greater than that, it will get rid of it, right? So if we do a data at 2 minutes 30, right, then it's going to be 150. We take away that, okay, and I really need like a scribble pad here to work it out. So that would be 150, 30, and if it's 30 is greater than the time, then we do, so it's we do an and boolean, Okay. And we can now drag all this stuff down here. And we can kind of drag this up here for the moment. And then we can branch off of here. Right? And if this is true, then we can do this. And we can say remove index. Right, and that goes in there. And that goes in there. Okay. So theoretically, we could do this as any number. So basically, we could add well, let's not do that for now, but we'll do 60, right? So after 60 seconds, it's going to start clearing up behind itself, right? Now, what we're actually going to do is we're going to get these and then add them to the next basket up, right? So they're no longer going to be categorized as what do you call it? They're no longer going to be categorized as seconds, they're going to be categorized as minutes, and then all the ones that are dropping into the minutes are basically going to get all added together if it's the same product, right? So that is basically the logic behind it. Now, there are going to be some weird counters that we're going to have to keep because we're going to need to know when we change over minutes, and we're going to need to know when we change over into hours, etc, etc. Okay, but we just want to get it started to actually see something happening. Okay. So we can start having a look at this, right? And what we can actually do here is look at our controller, right? And then we can go to our game stat counter and we can keep an eye on this data points, okay? So what we'll do is we'll set these up. Okay. We'll set our conveyor belts. And that's going to go in there. And it doesn't actually matter the speed of which we're producing stuff. right? But you can now see that our data point is going up. Okay. Now, it shouldn't actually go up that much at this point. Oh, we're not calling that. Hey, Dante, how are you, mate? Right, so we're not calling the clear thing. Right, we're not calling this. So we need to do that. So, it's going to be in reset totals somewhere. So here's reset totals, okay? And that's fine for now. No, I haven't tried to. I didn't know I was supposed to try you had a finished version. Probably I won't be able to do it anyway because the textures will probably be too big for Discord. But yeah, I'll try it this afternoon once I'm finished the stream, or tonight. Yeah, I'll certainly have a go at it. Right, so we're going to say remove after 2. Okay. So, we should be looking at the same thing again. And in our game stat counter, okay. Okay. I'll check it out once I get a chance. Dante, thank you. If we make some super progress here, I'll maybe have a go at it later, but there's a lot of work and calculations to be done in this particular graphing situation. Calculating all, there's a lot more to it than just making the graphs. I'm happy that we were managing to make graphs, but that's basically the start of the story. It's not really anywhere near showtime yet, okay? So basically once we hit here, you'll notice that this is now going up, right? And that's because it's removing the previous one, okay? So you'll notice it's went up a bit, but that's because it's now making the iron ore, right? But it isn't going to go up, or let's say it's never going to go up past about 48, okay? As I said, we can extend this right, but it's never we've got 4 products here, right? We've got bauxite, we've got iron ore, we've got iron sheet, we've got widgets, right? So it's never going to go higher than 12 times 4. It's never going to go higher than 48. Okay? So let's look and see how this goes. It's never going to get higher than 48. Right? Wait to see this, it'll go higher than 48. Right, so we're on 48, and now we're on 49. And 50. Right, but once the widgets hits a minute, it's not going to go higher. Right? So you'll notice now it isn't changing. Okay? We're not getting any extra values here. Okay? So we should still be on, yep, we're still on 54. Right, so that is a proof of concept that what we're doing here is going to work. Okay, so if we now draw the graph, right, so if we come to stats, we go to the graph, right? Well, what we're going to do stuff with the graph here, right? But it's all going to be from our data table, sorry, our data points, okay? So bear with me guys, because everything's going to go to pot here for a second or two, because this graph is basically going to get replaced. Okay? Right? So our simple Cartesian plot production okay, and we're going to be setting all these, and we're going to set our font. I'm not sure if this is the right thing or not. Okay, I mean, that's okay. But we need the... Right, font color. Hey, Pixel Tuner, how are you, mate? Right, so that gives us our text there. Okay. And we'll not delete this yet, actually. What we'll do is we'll leave that, right, until until we're happy with this. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to add the series, etc., etc., but we're going to do it manually. Okay. So we're not going to do that, but we are going to add a series. Okay. So we're not going to do it in here. What we're going to do is we're going to do it in the graph, and then what we're going to have to do is pass in the component, a reference to the component, so that we can actually get the data. Okay. So, wow, this is going to be a lot of work when I look at it. But hey ho. You're looking at me creating graphs. Okay, let's have a look at it. Right, we'll quickly set it up and then I'll get it to run and it will show you the graphs to start with. Right. So we'll get that to create widgets. Then we shall join these up. Then that's going to start pumping out product. Then this can get joined to the refiner. And then this is going to join up to here. And this is going to join up to here. And then eventually it's going to go into a storage unit. Right, and I'll give you a treat. I'll let you see. Do you want to see the drone dance? Let's do a drone dance for Pixel Tuner. We're better doing the drone dance down here so that you can see it. Right. So this is part of the system that what it does is basically they're going to search for minerals, and then once you find the minerals you can set out and it's going to build a mine. Okay, so anyway, that just gives us time to actually let our graph. So here we have a production graph, and these are our 4 different items. and we are currently working on making our graph actually work how we want it to, because at the moment it just kind of does a live graph, but we want to tie it to a certain scale and to a certain range, right? So like we want a 2-minute graph at the moment, right, that constantly updates, so that basically we're wanting it, this is now, right, and it's basically going to move along, and then the last number is going to be here, right? You'll notice that this scale is changing all the time, and that's not what we want. We want it to be a solid, basically 0 to minus 120, right, i.e. minus 120 seconds in the past, okay? And then the scale is calculated by the highest number of products that we've actually made. And then you'll have different graphs for different time periods. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Oh yeah, put the close button in, but I haven't actually done it yet. So we need to do that at some point. Right, so we need to gradually start filling up our second and this isn't going to be coming from product count. Right? It's going to actually be coming from the data points. Okay? So we need to take our time on this one, because this is going to get a bit complicated. So anything within the data points is good. So that can go in there. Okay, well, alright, okay, whatever. So we're going to have to replace these. So it's going to be for each with break. Then we're basically going to replace the other one. Right, and this is going to be break the struct points. By all means, Pixel Tuner, hit that subscribe button. That'd be a great help, and that would be very kind of you as well. So we're gradually going to replace this, right? So we'll do it in a nice orderly manner. Right, that this isn't going to be time, it's going to be the product, and this is going to go in here. Once I replace this, then we can obviously replace it completely, right? But just for the moment, we shall gradually replace it and make sure that what we're doing still works, right? Because everything should still work when I plug this in, right? The original data source thing should still work, and everything should still work as it did before, right? The only difference being that this will now go in here. This will now go in here. And that will go into there. Okay, so we could save that. Now remember, all this is going to go. Right, this for loop, this is going to go, this is all going to go. right? Because we're basing the data now on the data points and not the live data. We are saving the live data, but we're saving it into data points, right? For manipulation when we're making the graph. Okay? That's basically the fundamental point of this. So, in fact, what we'll do is sort it. We're going to delete these. Right? We're going to delete these, get rid of them, and just bite the bullet on it. Right? Because I am confident that this will still work. Famous last words, eh? Right, so now we can grab this and we can move it into place. Right, and then this can go to here. Then what we can do is tidy that up again. Right, and we can make sure everything's good here. Right, so we're now taking the data from the data points, and this is only for drawing the actual icons on the left for selecting them. So that's all good. So as I said, we shall gradually move the data to our whatchamacallit, to our new graph, okay? Now, what do we have here as far as the variables go? Right, we have got a reference to our comp, right? So that's all we really need inside this graph, or sorry, inside this widget, right? We're going to be redoing this stuff, right? Because we're not using the data source. We're going to have to be doing something like this, right? So we're going to be doing this, except we're not going to be pulling it from the data source, right? We're going to be pulling it from the data points, okay? So, with that in mind, let's have a look at a couple of things. Right, okay. The only thing is, we're going to have a look at this build selection. Okay. And we're saying has been produced. Then we're creating this. Right. Okay, so that's what that does. That's fine. Right. So we are going to do this, but we are going to switch certain ones off. So this can actually stay. Kinda. Right, but we'll be doing this. And this is the graph. And what we'll actually be doing is setting this one. Okay. Yeah, well, that's why I kind of stream. I kind of stream so that, well, hopefully, I'm not saying it's always the case, but hopefully somebody will see something going on and understand what we're doing here, and it'll help them in some way. I do get messages saying that this helped me or that helped me or whatever, so hopefully you'll find something interesting from it. Right, what we should really do is rename this simple Cartesian plot, right? Because that might be a bit confusing for you guys. It's just basically the graph, right? So what we'll do is we'll just call it GR prod for GR production, right? So it's kind of similar to this, but it's not quite. I'm not deleting this yet until I'm totally happy. Okay. Guys in the chat, can you let me know if my stream is okay, because I'm getting a message saying it's not receiving enough data, but everything's still running, and it does happen now and again, and it's away, the message is away again. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but anyway. Right, so let me know about the stream if it's choppy or if something's going on. That would be helpful. Right, so this graph here, right? Now let's actually set it to something. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a fixed range, okay? And it's going to be minus 120 to 0. Okay? And on the X, now I expected that. Did that come up with an error there? Well, let's type seconds. Right, that doesn't seem to come up with much, you know. So what we can do is say settings. We'll see if this looks alright in a minute, right? Right, so that's weird how it hasn't. It's probably because this is in the way, right? Right, we're back to this one. So that's X is seconds, Y it is quantity. Okay. So we'll save that. Do you think I should just go for it, guys, and just delete this? Do you think I should just go, screw it, man. We're going mental. Right, sod it. We're going mental. Right, it's going to no like me for this for a while. Okay. So we'll save that. Aye, it's not going to like that at all. Right, it's not going to like that at all. But what we can do is plug that in there, and it'll like that. And I think it's a pattern doing with rain. Right, so we could, in theory, plug this in here just to get it to work. Except we can't, right? We just can't. But that's alright. Because we're not going to use this anymore. Right? So this is where the fun starts. Because I've just deleted the main part that actually filled the data in on the previous graph. Right? So now we're getting nothing. Which is fine. We'll work through it, guys. We'll work through it. Don't you worry. Right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to join that up to there, and then we can actually delete that. Right, let's tidy that up later, okay? Oh, it's throwing it down with rain here. Wouldn't you just love it? By the way, guys, for those guys that are new to this, right? If I get to 10 concurrent viewers, I'll switch on my webcam. Okay? Now, the highest I've ever got 7, so there's no need to worry about it. I'm not going to scare the living daylights out of you anytime soon. But that is the deal. That's the deal, folks. Not that you guys would want to see an old guy making bloody games anyway, but yeah, there's that. Right, so this is going to be absolutely screwed now, and it ain't going to work, but I understand that. And we're going to start actually plugging in and making the data series from the data points, okay? And we're going to fill in the graph manually, and we're going to update it manually every 5 seconds, okay? So with that, hit the subscribe button, guys. I'm going to have a short break for a cigarette, so I'll be about 2 minutes. Check out the description for my Discord, where there's similar people to yourself who are making games, etc. My Patreon, which will get your name in the credits of the game, and also my previous game on Steam. So I shall be back in 2 minutes. Stick around, guys. Okay guys, we're back and let's get on with this as well as we can. Right, so can't remember where I was. Oh yeah, we was not working is where we was. Right, so right, just to explain this, okay? Basically, when we construct the stats widget, right, we get a reference to the controller, which also gives us a reference to the actor component called the game stat counter. Okay, so the actor component game stat counter does all the heavy lifting. Basically, it updates all the counters for anything that's produced in the factory, and then it's also going to do the formatting when it needs to remove stuff, when it needs to add stuff, when it's moving stuff from seconds to minutes, when it does that, right? That's going to be the thing that does all that. Okay, now we're just doing the first graph. Now the build selection basically adds the buttons at the side for all the products that are in the data points, right? Gets the image, puts it in a button, and basically adds that widget to the uniform grid in the parent, okay? Then it basically counts and changes column and row depending on when it needs to, right? So that's what that does. Now, for the graph itself, we have a reference to the chart, okay? So, basically, we don't need to do that. Well, we could still do this, right? What we're saying here is if the data points, this should actually now be the data points, but this sets the range and then updates the graph. Okay. And then basically does the running totals. So we call the set range. Okay. We make sure the chart is valid at this point. And if it is, we find out the highest value in our data range. Okay. So we're actually going to have to change this to not be running totals, but be data points. Okay? And that's probably not going to work, as I thought. Right, so what we're going to do is basically replace this as well. Hang on a second. We're going to have to do something slightly different here. So I actually think the best idea here is to actually find out what's working and what's not. at this point. Right, so we're going to delete that. Right, that's going to fail until we do that. We'll compile that, and now we should be able to get grprod. Where the hell is grprod? Right, okay. It would appear that this, it's no. Right, so I've named it completely wrong, right? So that should be GR production. So that doesn't help. So we now go to get GR production, right? And we plug that in there. And we plug that in there. Let me save that. Okay. So I have got absolutely no idea what's going to happen here. What I'm going to do first, learning from experience, right, is we're going to save all. Okay. Now, I think this is going to do absolutely squat diddly. That is my belief, that this is what's going to happen. But we can gradually fix it back up to working again. Yep, that's cool. That's kind of what I expected. I'm just wondering if this, you notice how it didn't go to a fixed, it's still kind of using a data source, as if it's using a data source. Right, but it kind of isn't. I'm just wondering if this goes to 120, right? And then stops, or if it just keeps going. Ah, it's resetting. Right, so that's good. That's good. Right? Don't know what's going on, but it's good. And the thing we're going to have to change is when we build the selection, we're looking at has been produced. Okay. Now, this is an interesting one, because what we're going to have to do is Right, so data points is good. Because remember, we're clearing out the data points, right? And this goes in here. So that was screwing that up. Now we are actually going to have, I think we already set it up actually, we need an enum for the type of graph that we're currently using, which we don't have. Right, but let's check that works first, okay? Right, so we continue that. And it was drawing all the things, which we don't want. We only should see bauxite here. Okay. So there it is, bauxite. Okay, so that works fine. So that is our first part of the puzzle. Okay. So we're gradually going to have to work this out. And the next, we've got time period, but that doesn't relate to what button we've actually switched on, right? So we need another enumerator, and it's going to be E chart mode. Let's call it chart mode, okay? And we're going to create some, it's going to be 5. So we'll call it real time. Then minute, well, let's call it 30 minutes, right? And this will give us a clue to what we actually need to do, right? And let's say this is 6 hours. Then 1, let's say day. We can change this, right? There's no reason why we can't change this. And this would be all time. Okay? So we've saved that, right? So we can close this down again. And if we go back to our game comp, we are probably going to have a variable here called chart mode. Might actually be in here. Yeah, there's no point in having that there. So in our chart widget, we're going to add a variable, and we're just going to call it mode, and then it's going to be E chart mode. Save it. and then it's going to default to real time, which is fine. Okay. So in our component here, we are going to go in here and we're not going to change this at all. Set plot scale by range. Well, in actual fact, what we should be doing here is taking what it already is, which is basically 2 minutes. Right, so if I get plot okay, so we can only set it right, and I'm guessing that if I just run it like that, yeah, it's going to not like that. So what that means is we're going to need to set up a set of defaults for our different we're going to set up a structure that based on our chart mode. Okay, so max is going to be 0 and min is going to be minus 120. Okay, only in this case though, only in this case, because this is the live one. So we're going back 120 seconds. As I said, we're going to have to do this dynamically and take it from a data table. Right, but that should now set our scale properly, right, for what we want at the moment. I know it's hard coded, but we're just gradually changing things over from the data source. Okay, so that should basically start producing stuff. Then we can hit G, and there you go, right? So we've got our 10 to minus 120, okay? Now the interesting thing, it hasn't got 0, but we will be plotting 0, okay? The other thing is it hasn't got the title. It hasn't got like seconds here, and it hasn't got quantity here, right, which is bizarre, but anyway. And let me just check that again for a second, right? Because at least we can check the range, okay? Right, so we know that if we maximize the output on the miner, our range should be 0 to 120 on the X, and it should be 5 on the Y, right? Because this is now outputting at 5. So it's given us 100. And there we go. It's now went to 5. Right? So that is exactly what we want. So it does know the maximum output. Okay? It knows the maximum output. And now, for some reason, this minus 120 isn't coming up. Right? But we're not going to worry about that either for the moment. What we're going to do is we're going to actually add data. Hopefully. Right, so on update graph, right, we're going to add to series, I believe. Right, so let's see what that's, well, that is the data point, right? So we're not using that. So what we're going to do, let's just check something here, right? See when we set it all up at the start, right? We're doing this, right? We add series. Right, but that's not, we're not doing that anymore. Right, so we really need to delete that so that we're not getting confused between the data source and anything else. So now nothing is coming from the data source. Okay? Nothing is coming from the data source at all. So we are basically adding our stuff manually, right? So we're setting our series here, and it's in GR production, right? So if we go back to here, and we say GR get GR production, and then we say series, except we try and spell it properly. Get series. It's not the data source one. So just add to, right, so it's not that. Can we do data? Add data point. Now is it this? Ah, right, okay, cool. So we do that, except we don't do that. What we do is we say data points. We get the data points, right? Then we say for each okay. Then we get break this. Here we go with this. I'm getting spammed again. I mean, that's a good thing. I suppose at least if I'm getting spammed and targeted, at least it means something, you know? It means that at least somebody's interested. Probably a bot, so it's probably a computer that's interested, but at least somebody's shown an interest, you know? Right, anyway, back to this. Right, so hopefully when we do this, we're actually going to start getting data on our graph. Now, it's not going to be perfect, I can tell you that, but we're going to get something. So, we have to grab this to string, and then we have to do a replace on it, right? And it's from a space to nothing, and then it's going to go in here, which is obviously awesome. Move that there for now. I'm just trying to get data on this for you guys so that it actually kind of starts making some sort of sense of what I'm doing, because at the moment you guys probably haven't a clue what the hell's going on. Right, so we're going to make a point, a vector 2D, right? And then that's going to be X, and the quantity is going to be Y. Okay. We're going to plug that in there. We're going to plug that in there. Okay. And this time is going to be minus, I believe, and it's going to be this, get game time in seconds. Right, we'll turn this into a function to return these one by one and basically pass in just the vector. Okay, but yeah, so let's go for it, shall we? Set range, update graph. Okay, we're gonna have to change this. And here, right, we're gonna have to grab this, and we're gonna have to say is valid. Okay, because we can't let it just go in here if it's nothing. Okay, so pull this down here, right, then we'll move this down a bit, then we'll move this whole section out into its own. We shall save that. Right, here goes nothing, guys, here goes nothing. Actually, you know what? It's going to be stop. So it's going to be time minus that. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I was right. Didn't think I'd got that right there. Well, might still not be right, but that's what I think it should be at this point. Trying to think of all these calculations in my head. Right, so we draw our thing. Then we make sure it does its loads of stuff. Right guys, here it is, moment of truth. And nothing. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the graph does not like you putting breakpoints in, I'll tell you that. Right, so we do have x is minus 30 and y is 1. Now, there should be a crap ton of these. Right, I'm going to disable that for now. Okay. So that looked okay. So I'll tell you what we'll do, right? We shall grab this again, copy that. We shall paste that. And there's nothing like a good old-fashioned print string. And in fact, what we'll do, just to make sure, is we'll do a print string in here as well. Right? And that is going to be that. And we're going to let it do the old 2-second thing. Right? and then because we should be getting values of every 5 seconds, so we'll see the new sets of values coming up each time, right? And we'll print out, let's do it properly, I suppose, eh? So we'll do append, and we shall say time, then time can go in here, add a pin, do a bit of a space, quantity, add a pin, add a pin, add a pin. Right, so quantity goes into D, then we add a few spaces, and we can say product, do that, then we can put product into here, drag that down, doesn't matter about the period for now, right? And then we plug that in here, and then what we'll do with the time is we'll actually do that, okay. So let's see what it comes up with. We'll do that, that, to there. We'll add some extra production to it. And there was our data. Okay. Yes, I'm Scottish. So we're getting our bunch of data. Now, my problem here is, why is it giving me it like loads of times? Yeah. It's as if this is running. Ah, right, okay. Okay. So it should be once this is complete. Right, so we'll drag that out the way. Then we'll do that. And we'll set that to 5. And we shall set this to 5 as well. So we're definitely doing something here, right? we are definitely doing something. And we're definitely setting the range. And then we're updating the graph, which is fine. So let's just talk our way through this. So it's getting past here, so we do have a graph. And then we're looping through our data points. And then we're adding data point. Right, so what we want to do is actually plug. Right, okay, wait a minute. We want that in there. Right. And we want to say if our thing has been a success each time. Right, because we want to know if it's actually adding the data point. Right. I mean, I'm sure it is. But we just want to make sure it is. And I'm just wondering now if it's the series, it hasn't been configured or something quite right. So we can click on that, we can set this up again, right? And it says false. Okay. So the question is now, does this, can I do this? Then get GR Pro production and find out what series. That's a data source. Okay. So the only thing that can be wrong here is the series ID. Okay. So if I break that, let's have a look. Make literal name. Right, this is just me testing here. And I say bauxite. Okay. Right, that's a bit whang. Right, it works for now, but it's not the best. Right, now this is still false. Okay. Okay. Right. You can say enable series. Okay. And we can say box height. And we can set it to true. Then we can plug that there. We can plug that there. I'm just trying to find out where it's given us a problem. After the data source stuff, we took all that out, so there might be some lingering bugs in there or something. As I said, this was never going to be easy. And it's still false. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Right, okay. Is it this? So X is time, and we'll just put 3 there or something. Now I did have, the first day I did this, I had a basic thing working, right, where I just plotted something to get it working in the first instance, and I'm sure this is all I did. Alright, let's see. Still says false. Well, I'm kind of stumped. Don't know about you guys, but so it's nothing to do with that, and it's nothing to do with that. Okay. No worries, Mr. Spock. We're still struggling away with the graphs here. We're actually doing it how we're actually going to do it now, rather than just playing about with it. But we've hit a roadblock. Our adding data points has decided it ain't going to frickin' work. Right, which is in here. Right, so enable. Then we're adding series style override. Okay. Right, I'm just thinking here. Enable series. And let's see if, no, that's exactly the same. I'm just thinking, is there some weird thing that I need to do to sort of do this stuff? Apparently not. But we'll just do this anyway as a, so we're going to say draw lines. Right. We need to plug that in there. And add series style override. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Add series with ID. Is this the bit I've missed? Because right, we'll delete that. I think this is it, guys. I think this is the thing that was missing. Right, we don't need to do that, right? And we don't actually need to do this because the only thing it does is this draw lines, draw points, right? So we don't need to do that. So for the simple Cartesian graph, yeah, this rings a bell. This was the one I did before. Right, enabled, show, we don't show points, we only show lines. Right. And I don't think it really matters for that, but then we'll do that. And we'll delete that. Okay. This would be a rather fitting end to the stream if this works, and it'll be a rather large disappointment if it doesn't. But we'll see. There we go. And let's see what we've got here. True. We're going to have to sort it. Okay. So obviously the data is actually coming in the kind of wrong way around. Let's see what actually happens when it kind of clears itself, you know. I mean, it is kind of working, but we're but it's kind of went a bit freaky. Let's just say that. You notice it is gradually making its... Oh! Yeah, I've changed it to... Yeah. Remember guys, I changed it to 60 seconds to refresh. So what I'll do is I'm going to hit our button. And there we go. Right. So guys, if you've enjoyed the stream, hit the subscription button. We're going to work on this off stream, fix it all up a bit, but at least we've got now something plotting on our chart, and it is kind of right. Now we need to get the order correct so that it plots properly, but we can do that. So check out the description guys for Discord and Patreon and my previous game on Steam, and I shall see you at 8 PM Central tonight, and we'll do some more work on this and get it sorted out. Okay, so there's a lot to do still, but we're making progress, and that's all that matters. Bye for now.